If your team ever asks you or keeps asking you, or maybe you're even asking yourself, why are we doing this again? Every time you refocus the business or launch something new, you're probably facing what we call purpose drift. And in part two of our Buy-In Blockers Takeover Series, Dave Garrison is back and he's going to unpack the first major blocker that kills momentum, even in the strongest of organizations. So, Dave shows you how easy it is for a clear purpose to get buried under the things that we dread meetings, metrics, or the dreaded, we've always done it this way. And he walks you through the signs of purpose drift, why people stop seeing how their work connects to what matters, and how that leads to the yes in the room, but no in behavior dynamic that he sees in so many executive teams. And I think all of us have seen that as well. And he'll give you practical ways to connect yourself and your people to a living, breathing purpose, not the poster on the wall, but it's so they can make better decisions even when you're not in the room. This is episode 2 in the series. So if you missed the overview on the mindset of buy-in, go listen to that first, but then come back here ready to diagnose where purpose drift is showing up on your team or maybe even with yourself. So let's dive into the episode.
Thank you, George. Thanks for inviting me to share what I've learned. And I've learned it, frankly, from a lot of other leaders about how they've created game-changing results by tapping into the potential in other people that most never experience. And what I call this is buy-in. And just as a reminder, in the first episode, we defined buy-in. Buy-in is what you see Friday night at high school football games. You know, buy-in is when people are in the stands and they're bringing their whole selves to it and excited, and they're all united against one goal, pardon the pun, which is their team winning. And that is one definition of buy-in. And the sad truth is about half of employees are looking for another job. Half of employees at companies are looking for another job, which tells you they don't have buy-in. In fact, only about 1 in 3 employees in the US would recommend their job, their company as a place to work. 1 in 3. That tells you 2/3 are not bought in. But I think it's worse than that, because it's not, would you recommend this is a place to work? That's engagement. The question is, are you bringing your full self to work? Are you bringing your heart, your head, your soul, your gut? Are you bringing all of those and applying your experience against the challenges and the opportunities in your workplace? Look, as a boss, I can tell you it's very easy to walk into a business and see if people are bought in or not. Hi, I'm Dave Garrison. I'm the author of the USA Today best-selling book, The Buy-In Advantage. And today I'd like to share some of the nuggets that we've learned along the way, beginning with the 4 blockers. The 4 blockers that get in the way of buy-in, not because leaders want to get in the way of buy-in. It just happens unintentionally along the way. So those 4 blockers are purpose drift, blind tasks, lone wolf leadership, and one-way communication. So today we're going to talk about purpose drift, which is one of the most insidious diseases we see in a business. Let's start by defining what we mean by purpose drift. You know, businesses that are really successful and are game-changing always are very clear on what their purpose is other than making money. And purpose drift is when people lose track of the why in making daily decisions. Teams lose the plot. Values and purpose aren't translated into everyday work. So energy and alignment across people within a team and alignment across teams just fades into the sunset like those vanishing taillights. This lack of purpose and purpose drift fuels low engagement, and it makes retention that much harder. Because one of the things we know is the data tells us that identifying and aligning with a company's purpose is an important consideration in which employees hire you, because frankly, that's what it is. They're hiring you, even though you're writing the paycheck. And it also causes them to stay with the company as opposed to shifting jobs. So, with half the people in a workplace looking for other jobs, they're looking for better alignment and purpose. It's not just about pay, it's alignment with purpose. So, why not quell that right out of the gate and be really clear on your purpose so you don't have purpose drift? Look, if you feel like your team is just checking the boxes and they're getting their to-do list done, maybe, but they're really watching the clock for 5 o'clock so they can bolt out the door, you probably have purpose drift. Or maybe you're fighting fires and you feel like no one's focusing on what's most important for the business. That's another symptom that you'd see when you have purpose drift. And it's really frustrating because you feel like no matter how hard you work, you have to work double or triple or quadruple time to make up for others who don't seem to get it. And that's because purpose and values aren't guiding daily priorities or decisions. So energy, engagement, retention, all dropping. And when you have purpose drift, people aren't really clear how what they're doing right now connects to the bigger picture. And you might be feeling like, man, how can they not see the bigger picture? How can they not see? How could they have made that decision? How come they can't see the bigger picture? I need to find ways to connect buy-in and engagement to the larger company purpose, strategy, and values. I've been there. I know how frustrating it is. And what I had to learn about myself when I took an honest look in the mirror is I didn't spend enough time reinforcing compelling purpose and our values. I missed the opportunities to do that. And I assumed because we talked about it in onboarding or we talked about it in a town hall that it was actually happening. Not so much. People need to hear things an average of 7 times, and they need to see it modeled in everyday conversation. So, a question for you is, have you been modeling compelling purpose in your everyday conversation and how you set priorities and how you make decisions? What would it be like for your whole team to understand which projects needed priority because those projects supported the overall purpose of the company better than other projects? What if people knew that on their own? What if your team felt motivated to give their best because they truly believed in the why of the work? Not because, oh, I got to have a paycheck. Everybody needs a paycheck or some income. That's not a motivation. That's sort of table stakes, right? But you'll give extra if you really believe in the mission and what's going on. And by mission here, I mean purpose. So here's what you can do. Here's how you can address this today. It doesn't cost money. It's not really complicated, but there are 3 questions to take to your team. And I just remind you of 2 principles from the book, The Buy-In Advantage, that go to work here. One is all of us are smarter than any of us. So if you want to give your team the answer, you've just accidentally killed buy-in. If you work with them on co-creating an answer, you can create buy-in. The second principle from the book, The Buy-In Advantage, is remember, people want to be done with, not done to. They want to participate. They want to share their enthusiasm. They want to share their experience. They want to share their ideas. So it's free. You're already paying for it. Why not take advantage of that? So, a couple of questions. 1, ask your team, how is the work that you're doing collectively making a difference? How is the work you're doing collectively making a difference? Second question is, hey, how does our work change and improve other people's lives? How do we change and improve other people's lives? And the third, which sometimes is most challenging, what are the 4 to 6 words that you can use to describe how you're changing the world and how you're changing people's lives. 4 to 6 words. Let me give you some examples. Walt Disney, creative genius of the century, used the words creating happiness as his compelling purpose. Google's, many of you know, is organizing the world's information. Self-driving cars, Google Maps, Gmail, all create information that they can organize, and then their business model is to resell the information. But their business purpose is not reselling information, it's organizing the world's information. I talked to an entrepreneur who's really successful, has profits well above industry average the other day. And I said, how do you do it? And she said, I'll tell you how I do it. I keep my employees focused on our compelling purpose, and that's spreading happiness. Spreading happiness is their compelling purpose, and it shows up in the kind of employees they get, the retention of employees, and how well they delight their customers. So your opportunity is, if you have a compelling purpose, congratulations. If it was co-created, extra credit. And if it's not repeated regularly, what low-hanging fruit? Bring it up every time a decision comes up. Bring it up when it's time for priorities. Ask your employees how they would make a decision or how the compelling purpose would influence their decision. It's really a great way to tie people to why it matters and remind them what they are doing is important. So don't fall victim to purpose drift. Grab a hold and put it to use. Shoot me a message on LinkedIn, and I'll send you a guide to developing and applying your compelling purpose. It's a one-pager. It's easy to apply and easy to use. And in the comments, feel free to share how you've put compelling purpose to work. Thanks. And next time, we're going to look into another one of the blockers that you can tackle and turn around in your organization to create buy-in. See you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Buy-In Blockers Takeover Series from my incredible friend, Dave Garrison. I had to throw an outro on every one of these episodes because you have to know Dave, you have to know his team, and you have to use his resources. If you are an entrepreneur at every level, whether you're just starting out, maybe you have a 1099, maybe you have a team of 3, maybe you have a team of 10, maybe you have a team of 50, everything that Dave speaks and Dave teaches is applicable and so powerful for you to use. And so at the offset of this, I have to tell you, you need to get a copy of his book, The Buy-In Advantage. You can find it on Amazon. You can find it on their website, garrisongrowth.com. But I use this book as a manual. I use the tools in it. I use it to run meetings. I use it to help clients with processes and priorities. And this book has become one of my top books when it comes to building and scaling a company, which is why I asked Dave to come take over the podcast and do this series. So get yourself a copy of the Buy-In Advantage. And I wanted to throw this out there because I wrangled them into a corner and I know how valuable what he does is for everybody. And so they are running a special training called the Leadership Sprint, which they will give you access to. You can come live, you can ask Dave questions. And in order to do that, you need to shoot Dave a message on LinkedIn. So he's easy to find. It's Dave Garrison on LinkedIn. I'll have it all linked in the show notes, and shoot them a message that says Leadership Sprint. Let them know what your takeaway was from the podcast, and they will send you a link to the training. And I'm also going to throw this out there. They might get mad at me, but if there's anything that resonates with you when it comes to leadership, when it comes to buy-in, when it comes to managing your team, when it comes to priority, I highly, highly encourage you to reach out to their team with any questions. Their email is engage@garrisongrowth.com, and they're absolutely incredible. So they are here to help you on your buy-in journey, to help you build your team, scale your team, and take your company and bring that vision to life. And so it's a resource. I invite you to use it, but I wanted to throw this outro on all the episodes. So I hope you enjoy this entire series with Dave Garrison, and make sure you reach out, and we'll see you in the next episode.